is an ongoing conversation. This is our second workshop. We had one, I guess, last week, unless my head's spinning from all kinds of stuff been going on in my life, but I think it was about a week ago. And we're just going to continue the conversation. There were some things that we discussed that were altered slightly in the budget then, and this is just a continuing conversation about that. So I'm going to jump off the conversation by the $14 million elephant in the room, and we're going to discuss the potential FELO reallocation that was presented in our original budget packet, and kind of where we've came from there. And just for the public, we found out once we got those numbers in that we were looking at multiple different districts that were going to lose money, from municipalities to fire districts, and one of the major ones that would have gotten hit was the school board. And we found out number-wise that was around $14 million, which was a lot of money. So we requested that the administrator work on that, and between then and this past week, he had got that number down to $5 million. And I will let council know as well, I did have a good conversation with the board chair, Ms. Stiles, as well as Mr. Royster today, and they stressed some of their concerns, and we didn't necessarily agree on every single thing, but it was a good conversation. And I guess where I wanted to open up the discussion, for me, it was just a question to the administrator. I think everybody has been able to see over the course of the last couple of days that, this was kind of sprung on a lot of different bodies, not just the school board, but our fire districts and people that had already set a budget. So we want to try to keep that in mind. So my first question to the administrator before we even get into discussion is I feel like he's our genie in the bottle at the moment because I go back to him every time, but is there any other method for this upcoming budget cycle where we could still adequately fund what we've decided to do through council without it being something that the school board or other districts have to take a hit this year, and then we look at moving forward this possible reallocation?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, thank you. We have been studying this thing nonstop for several weeks now. I apologize on some of the lateness getting the information, but it's coming out of a somewhat dated system, and then a lot of it is actually done manually, which we're in the process of fixing that. That's a whole nother discussion. But what we've identified, we had gross numbers. We can get those numbers just with a push of a button, but they're allocated based on millages. The county takes 31% off the top of every FELO, and then 1% goes to the other partner counties, and the rest is divided up by millage based on the pro rata share of each entity that's within that district. So not one FELO is the same. Depending on where they're located is what determines how it works. So after we were able to start gleaning information down to the individual FELO and seeing how that all works and everything, it was quite eye-opening how it did affect a number of entities at different levels. And some of the small fire districts, for instance, got hit hard just because of where they're located. And that is very concerning. It did hit the school district very hard. Of course, they have the highest millage, so they get the lion's share of it. And so we started going back and comparing, okay, where are we the complete year of 2024, which is what we have complete numbers for, and compared it to the current year through April of this year. And what we did see is a nice trend where we had about $7 million worth of revenue growth for FELOs from last year through April of this year. So that tells me we're on the right trajectory to look at a little different method. Instead of going back, because I can vouch for everybody's complaint about we already have our budget in place and we know what to expect. That's what we base everything on, is what has happened in the past. Throw in some projections for going forward with some escalators, and that's how we build our budget. So when you lose part of that, it is a hit. and I don't disagree with that. And timing was difficult this time because we're not all on the same budget calendar. The school district, from what I understand, has already had their first reading of their budget. I know some of the cities are getting ready to pass their budget, fire districts, same way. Part of ours, we wait as long as we possibly can so that we have as good of information that we can possibly have. So with all that kind of thrown in there, it appears to me that we have an opportunity here to kind of look forward and base it on the growth that is occurring in Philos and take a bigger percentage of that as we go forward. We had some fund balances that we've been working off of, both in road program and the infrastructure account. So we can get through this year. I can keep you at $36 million for roads. Next year, I think we can do the same thing. I'm looking further out. And what can we do to ensure that that happens? Well, as I pointed out to a couple of you, actually delaying the adoption of the second year budget can be very beneficial to us this year, because then it'll give us more time to analyze what is happening and make adjustments before you all actually make that determination. So I think there's a great opportunity here where we can look forward and not look back. It was a start to find more funding for roads. That's a challenge we have. As we all know, we've been down this road many times trying to find funding. And I do believe this is a source that could be beneficial for us, and without taking away from the entities something they currently have.
Okay.
That delay that you're talking about, is that the one that we would be adopting in, what, like 2026 or later on this year? I can't remember what.
The 2027.
Right.
Yeah,
No, I know it's for fiscal year 2027.
November.
But
Yeah, where you all
this
sit-
November is what you're.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll have between now and then to look at trends and look at how revenues are coming in and all that, so that we can really hone in on it.
Yeah.
So when you said, I guess for my clarity, can you elaborate off, essentially we would be doing this off of projected growth in the Philo arena versus going back retroactively and taking from what we're already collecting from in the past?
Provided that growth sustains what we're trying to accomplish.
Right. So it could be more volatile, but
It could.
Yeah.
It could, but if you look at trend lines and everything going back, we've had some slowdowns over the years. When the economy slowed down and everything, it seems like the economy's going pretty good right now. And this last year increase was big. Now, keep in mind, we passed, County Council passed a number of FELOs last year toward the end of the year. Those aren't even on yet. So it takes time for them to come online, and, the different facilities being built and things like that. So I see for the foreseeable future, we're going to have some pretty healthy growth.
Councilor Seaman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So how would that work for the other taxing entities? Just as we negotiate going forward, so that they would also have some certainty. I mean, I understand that there could be volatility, but I think part of this is none of us operate in a vacuum, and it's all very symbiotic. So you're pulling one lever and affecting the other. So if we keep everybody whole for now, where is the certainty going to be for them going forward? Like, what would that look like?
Well, provided we have the appropriate growth, then whatever formula percentage that we settle on, County Council decides is the right number, then we can help the entities understand how much we're keeping, how much is still available. There'll still be some left. I wouldn't propose taking 100%. And so there'll still be some growth. But for instance, the school district's budget, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but having conversations, it's approximately 10%. Philo revenue is approximately 10% of their ad valorem taxes that they receive from collections. And so
Be clear, that's misleading, of their ad valorem that they collect. It's not of their
No,
total.
no, I
Okay,
just
that's
said
what
the
it sounded
tax.
like, though. I just want to
Yeah,
be very
no.
clear, because that's the perception of the public is
Yeah,
that it's 10%.
no.
It is not.
No,
It's
according.
more like 2.8%, just to make sure, sorry.
Right. So it, of their total budget, yes, but of their taxes. And so even a change in that 10% area, they still can have some growth so that the overall impact will not be near as great as it could be.
And as a follow-up, would the philo growth to be dependent, not, I mean, it would be dependent on us having new philos coming into the system.
That's correct.
So what happens if we don't have any new philos coming into the system?
Well, then I guess we'll be somewhat stagnant. We'll be sitting here trying to decide what to do next. But I don't foresee, quite frankly, that, there's not going to be opportunities for philos going forward. I think we can all look and see philos are very beneficial. They bring jobs and generate revenue. And how we use that revenue is kind of what we're talking about tonight, but it does provide a source for some infrastructure improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Fant?
Not to rain water on this discussion. Everybody knows that this council has demonstrated a propensity to be hostile, somewhat hostile, toward philos. Inasmuch so, we've not passed one this year, and it's almost June. So I don't want us to say, okay, we're going to have all this growth and all this revenue from, Ms. Seaman was much more tactful than me, but bless her heart. But I just, not saying I'm disagreeing, but just keep in mind, this council is hostile toward philos, so much so we've not passed one this year. So we can't keep saying, yeah, I'll take credit. We did a bunch of philos over the last 2 years. So that's where that growth is. But
Dr. Fant?
Yes.
I can ask a question real quick? I think we have passed some philos this year.
How many have we been presented?
I don't know of any that have been turned down. So,
they
but
are a little hostile. They're a little hesitant to bring.
Let's deal in
No, no.
facts.
Yeah, no.
Let's deal in facts.
I'm dealing with the facts.
No, you're not.
JDC said they've not brought any because they're a
Right.
little bit concerned on how council will react.
Show me the numbers. They don't want to show me the numbers, I'm
Hang
not
on.
going to vote on a
Hang on.
philo.
I just wanted, more than anything, I just wanted to stick to the, I'm on finance, obviously, I chair it, but I can't think of them off the top of my head, but if I'm not mistaken, I thought we had.
I had
Never done any at
assumed,
all.
quite honestly, I had assumed y'all had.
Right.
I mean, we're almost to summer, so I assumed you had. They said they've been holding them because they were concerned about how council would react to bringing them because
Are they going to hold them for 4 years?
no, they're going to have to bring them at some point. Matter of fact, the reason I met with them, honestly, well, you there, but you didn't get to stay. It's a philo request in my district, and they want to talk to me about it because they were afraid of how this council would react because of the hostility that had been shown. It's not for a big argument. I'm just saying we're not as giving with regards to philos as we have been in the past. So I just don't want us to assume that there's going to be this great growth if we're not passing philos
Sure.
at the rate which we've done in the past years. That's all.
And,
Not to
and,
pick
I,
a fight.
and I wasn't trying to be
So-
contesting on that. I just wanted to make sure I couldn't remember. So.
I totally agree with you. I think they should still just send it to them, send it to us anyways. I don't think they should be hesitant or anything like that. I mean, if you want to get it done, I would suggest do it expediently. But I was going to say, and I don't know if this carries on over to this fiscal year or not, but I do specifically remember like one of our first meetings coming on, we passed out one for that solar farm out in Mr. Bradley's district. But I don't know if that like goes into this cycle of their
I'm
numbers
sure-
or not.
I get
But I'm
what you're
just saying, like,
yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, but
Yeah.
that was just something I want us to think about.
Sure.
I see what Mr. Cornell is saying, that growth is there. We've passed a ton of them, but we're not passing them at the rate we did in the past. So the revenue may not be as much of an upward trajectory as we're seeing currently. That's all.
Well,
Not to pick a
and,
fight.
and just to be clear, that's one of my hopes behind this is that it gives us a chance to really dive into the philo process. I know Dr. Shaw was requesting another workshop to really dive into it, and not really to dive into it in a negative way, but to explain to the citizens the importance of philos, how they work, those kind of things. And I think this will be another avenue to hopefully inform the public on why they're beneficial and and all those things. So, sorry, didn't mean to hijack that conversation. That's
No, and I wasn't trying to be contrarian. I just wanted to put that out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
if I may.
Councilor Collins?
Yeah, the three of us are on the board, GADC. And as of this year, our last meeting, they're on par with interests and site visits as they were last year, but none has dropped through the funnel. And they can't present that until they get that okay or actual acceptance. But that said, again, my whole idea is, as most of us agree, how can you project something that is pretty much like a grant? You can't just, okay, it's not guaranteed. So if they only get 12 philos this year, as opposed to 18 last year, just using a number, then that's going to impact you again. So that planning 101 in the financial world, I can't plan for that. I have to be conservative in my estimate, hoping that something comes on. And then, but I think that's where we're at right now, about 9 or 10 through last month's meeting.
Right.
So, but nothing has fallen through yet. So a lot of prospects.
Sure.
But again, and then I also believe that with a lot of stuff that may have been a reflection of the hostility, is that a lot of the people, and I talked to Mr. Max about this, a lot of people, they don't understand the philos, but every time you see 700 jobs, they see 1,400 cars. And everything's supposed to help the infrastructure. Well, it always seems it goes in the infrastructure bucket, but nothing comes out to widen the road. They always stack houses on a 2-lane road and say, there's your infrastructure. So that's what the people in my area are, not say hostile, but to use a word, are hostile because they just see it as that many more cars, regardless of who's planning their budget on a philo, which is unstable ground. That's my point.
Thank you. Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was also thinking, too, I don't think this has ever happened, but the other instability factor, I guess, would be on the off chance that a company didn't meet their requirements. What happens if we've allocated the money, but then,
Well, if they don't meet their requirements, that doesn't excuse them from their property taxes.
well, I know, but we're not, then
well,
we
we have
say,
perfect
would that be the fallback? Then if you don't make it, then whatever I don't know. I'm
Well,
just saying
they still have to pay. And
but
in fact, we had a situation this past year, back in March, I believe, is when we pretty much finalized it, where a company was supposed to meet certain criteria, and their tax bill went from $450,000 to $900,000. They did not meet it. So there's the fallback is they pay.
and it would just follow the same formula? I mean, what?
Yeah,
I mean,
and we have delinquent collections each year. So what I'm saying, long term, I don't disagree with Mr. Collins, but short term, I think we can. And when I say short term, 2 to 3 years, just knowing the run-in that we have. When I say run-in, the philos that have been adopted, and how long it takes them to get up and running, we're fine. It's after that, and that's what it's critical that hopefully with your leadership, GADC will start bringing them forward so that we can, keep the pipeline going. But based on all indicators, economic indicators, we have not seen a downturn in the Greenville area economy.
And again, that to clarify on your point, Mr. Administrator, on an MCIP, multiple county industrial park, if it's to a different county, we only get that 1% of that philo.
No,
correct?
not if it's in here.
Well, no,
not if
if
we
it-
do it.
to another county.
If they do it.
Correct.
And include us.
Then we get the 1%. That's right.
But
That's-
we pay 1%. So on $65 million,
Sure.
$650,000 is
And
what goes.
The thing I would like to see is I'd like to see a list of the philos, the breakdown in percentage of where the money is allocated, and the parameters that really establish that breakdown, because I think that would help the council, those that don't understand the philos, that would understand, who gets what, and then who decides who gets what.
The county council did.
Right, but again.
County
I
council
don't
did 30 years ago.
Right.
When you put in place and I say you as a body, put in place the allocation. It's 31% comes to the county. 1% goes to the partner counties. That's by law, the 1%. And then the rest of it is allocated, and there's 61 taxing jurisdictions or districts or whatever, so it just depends on where it's located. It will change. In other words, if it's in the city of Greenville, then you got that millage plus all the other ones. If it's not in the city, then you have, school district and all these. So each one, not each one, but a lot of them will be different. The end result's the same.
And they vary, depending on the location of.
The location,
right.
just like every tax bill.
Sure.
That, for instance, your district is going to be different than Dr. Fance's district and Chairman Blount's district, where just depends on what's included. I think there's 100 some odd variations of a tax bill.
105.
Right. So, and that's just based on fire districts, sewer districts, special purpose districts, whatever it may be, and it just depends where you're located.
Yep.
So you start mashing them all together, and that's what changes. But it's all based on the millage. And the system, it's the same system that allocates all the property taxes that come in. When you pay your property tax bill, it knows that you are in this district, everything's coded that way, and it goes X amount to each entity. That's the way this works also.
Sure.
And so it's, I've got all the reports if you'd like to thumb through them, because it shows every penny that's collected through the tax collector. And fees for different things, services, and all that other stuff that comes and allocates it out, and then you can thumb through each district and see what they got.
Yep.
All right. Councilor Russo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know, there's definitely the school districts, the big item on there, and that's, definitely, should be highlighted and stuff. I know, however, the public safety, some of the fire departments have, gotten in touch with me and definitely been hearing from them how, when they get shorted, $100,000, that doesn't sound like a whole lot when it comes to some of the school districts. Maybe our budget, $100,000 is a huge number, but to a fire district, that's a huge burden to have to kind of figure out on the fly. So I'm definitely feel like should be in favor of a phase-in process, especially if we can look at how we're allocating for roads, and if that's based on the FILO growth. I think that shows, projection inherently is not guaranteed. We all, and anybody in business knows that. You're never going to be 100%, on track of what you think you should be doing. But I think if we look at it on growth, if we're doing our job on council and the county is doing better, those businesses that are moving in that everybody says, oh, why are they not paying their fair share in infrastructure? I think for showing that growth is that paying into that, it achieves that a little bit. So I think, helping the school districts out and the fire departments in a kind of more of a phased-in approach where they can handle their budgets. We're not kind of springing it on them as they're sitting there trying to pass a budget, and the fire districts are trying to keep their stuff intact. I think that's probably a more responsible route to go, especially if we're able to still, go into really, multiplying how much we're putting into our roads.
Thank you, Counselor. And just to go back to that, I guess, too, Mr. Administrator, you said 36 million would be about what would be available if we phased this in. Is that?
That's correct.
I know when we first talked, it was 40, but then when we looked at the number, it's like 43.2 because of another amount of money. Is this just 36 overall?
No, this would be 36 for roads still.
Okay.
And then there's still about a total of right at $3 million for debt service for Woodruff Road bypass.
Right.
And,
So it'd still be sitting closer on, as far as the figure goes, it'll sit closer to 40.
40. And we can do that, like I said, from fund balance, spend down on both road program and infrastructure. And then start replenishing that as we go with property tax growth. And this does have property tax growth projected at the level that I'm currently talking about.
This will be pertinent later in the conversation. What's our general fund right now for the county?
General fund,
Balance, sorry.
oh,
Current general fund balance, sorry. You know that off the top of your head, come on.
well, we started this year at 80 million.
Okay, what do we have?
6 million.
About 80 million.
Yeah, we're projecting that we're going to start this budget, upcoming budget year at 74.
Okay, thank you. And remember those numbers for later, everybody, because it'll be in context of what we're going to talk about.
Thank you.
I actually have a question about reserve funds. If we were to spend more of our reserve funds, does that affect our credit rating?
Very, very much will.
Okay, thanks. And I assume the school board is the same way?
I would assume so.
Okay.
Keep in mind, too, we have financial policies in place
Yeah.
that were council adopted. So if we want to go below that, I would suggest that county council change their policy. There are risks involved with that. We're at 25 to 35%. We hover, sometimes we get a little high, and sometimes we stay right at it. Right in the range. So it would have an impact, though, I believe, on our well-being financially.
I'm not advocating for this, but I just got to know, how quickly could you recover losing your AAA rating?
I guess we can call Washington, see what they think, because they just lost theirs by the third rating agency. It's a long process, quite frankly.
Yeah.
They don't like the big peaks up and down. They like it smooth. Anybody, with finance people, they like it smooth and measurable and all that. We didn't just get it by luck or by chance. It took a lot of time. The community I came from, I worked real hard and got us up to a 2A plus. But we had gone from no property tax, or basically eliminated property taxes and relied on sales tax. That's a challenge because that is somewhat volatile, and they like to see some certainty. So to answer your question, it would probably take quite a while. And the rating agencies don't like to bump you up and drop you down.
Right.
They don't like that. They want to keep it. It will affect future borrowings, if we lose it. And, it's something I think that we all can point to that demonstrates we're doing something right financially around here. They don't just give AAA ratings. Like I said, the United States government just lost it. They were the sovereign power when it comes to finances. That was the gold standard up until just now. So we actually exceed the United States government when it comes to credit.
Anybody else? Dr. Fant?
I'm sure if I'm wrong, Mr. McGay, he'll correct me. Is there a consensus here that since we did not give anybody any notice at all before we did this and everybody's well into their budget process, are we saying, and maybe it's good we're pushing 27 to November, leave everybody alone right now for this budget cycle and do the phase-in starting in November? And that way, since we in November, we'll be doing the 27 budget. That gives everybody else who will be working on their budget behind us, then they will already know what to expect from us and could plan better. Now, that just seems a little fair. Or what am I missing?
Well, yeah, but except for the growth of the coming year, which starts in June or July 1 of this year, is when we'd start taking the additional money, the new money.
Okay.
Not going back.
Right.
Taking anything out of anybody's pocket. Just going forward, taking the growth.
Because I was just thinking, I know everybody's concerned about the school district, and rightly so, but you're talking $500,000 to Donaldson and all the people they protect.
Absolutely.
You're talking $500,000 to South Greenville, down there where you are. That would devastate them.
Absolutely.
I mean, and as much as we talk about no tax increase, they would not have a choice but to raise taxes. And them same people that don't like taxes, they'd be paying taxes to them to make up for what we just did. So can we just leave everybody alone Tell them what we're gonna give them when we do the budget in November, and they can have a head start in planning, or am I wrong? I'm just trying to find some common ground.
I think that was the biggest complaint. Everybody had their budget, and now they're going to have to rework the budget. So I think Joe's went out of his way to appease those folks. So I think it's a great idea.
And so that this, just to be clear, the 36 million that we're talking about is including the growth that will happen from now moving forward.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Counselor.
let me ask this to all the counselors, and some of you have been here a while, and don't take offense to this, please. It's not offensive. It's, when have we committed to public infrastructure in the past? And why haven't we done it?
Well,
I
maybe
mean, we've been 12 million. Hold on a second. Hold on. I know. Well, we've been 12. I will. What I'm asking us, this is our discussion. This is our workshop, not his. Where was the commitment to tell the administrator he works for us? He doesn't tell us what to do. And if we can't read these as administrators, you need to pay someone to help you, because that's what drives the county. This is what drives the school. And if you can't read the financials in their audits for the past 10 years, I'm not trying to be rude, but that's something that we're responsible for as legislators. Okay, so what I'm saying is, I know people think I'm crazy, but I'm not. I'm passionate. I'm not a politician. I was sent here to do a mission. All right, I'm not here to be here for 20 years and collect 30 grand a year and then just sit here and spend your money. That's not why I'm here. All right, I'm an operator. I have been my whole life. I've been told this is the budget you get and you make it happen. All right, like the Marines say, hey, we can destroy it overnight. Just tell me when you want it done. So that's what we're here for. So I find it hard to believe that I'm not going to sit here and agree to that unless you agree to me that we put 40 million into roads next year. Okay, I'll agree to that. You sit here and promise me that you will vote for 40 million for roads and we get started on our roads, because for the past 30 years we've done nothing. So I'm willing to commit to that and say, let's phase it in. I'm willing to do that. I'm reasonable, but I want a commitment from this council that we will start on infrastructure. We're not going to sit here and be like the rhinos and the people in D.C. and tell you, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, do this, and now they're going to add $2 trillion to our debt next week. Okay? So I'm not going to sit here. I'm not grandstanding. I'm telling you the truth. I will agree to that, and I'm happy with that. And you're right, we did catch some people off guard, and I'm sorry about that. But to make it right, we have to have a commitment from this council to start on infrastructure. And if you want me to agree to that, what you're proposing, I want that promise from everybody on this council. If not, I won't agree to that. So when we can commit to infrastructure and improving, we have had 30 years of malfeasance by county council for infrastructure. I can't blame it on Joe. Joe works for us. Everything I've asked Joe to do, he's done. Everything. Joe's never told me, no, Kurt, we're doing this instead. Not once have I heard that out of his mouth. So I want a commitment from everybody on council that we are going to commit to infrastructure. And the one penny sales tax fixed. I'm sorry, failed. Well, I got my waterproof pillowcase out and I cried myself to sleep that night. But then I got up the next morning and went back to work. All right? We've got to solve this problem. So if everybody on this council will commit to spending a minimum of $40 million of our budget next year on roads, I'll agree to that.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Seaman? Okay. Counselor Russo?
Thank you for not a politician. That was a great speech. No, I appreciate. I appreciate it. That wasn't not a jab or anything. I appreciate it. No, I'm serious too. And I think I've talked to a couple of people, and I talked to Joe earlier about something I really don't want to get too far down the road without missing. Talking about infrastructure, and something I brought up earlier to Joe after the first budget workshop is looking at our public safety as a whole. And I know, we don't typically do separate, salary increases. I kind of wanted to look at this before we got this budget on the floor, before we, do amendments or anything, but looking at, what would be some separate increases for public safety across the board. I know in the past we had done it in lieutenants and below and stuff like that. And I mentioned to Joe, just from talking to people I know personally at the sheriff's office, because I can speak to them a little bit more directly, it's, when you get to that lieutenant spot, you almost take a pay decrease because sergeants are, you're only eligible for overtime sergeant or below. So we've done it in the past. I think lieutenants and higher have not gotten it. I kind of want to make sure everybody's included in something like this. But I asked Joe to try to get some numbers together, and I don't know, I don't want to catch you off guard, but to look at some separate increases for public safety as a whole, and not just sheriff's office, not just EMS, kind of everybody included.
Right, for sheriff's office, EMS, and detention center, which EMS and detention equate to almost what the sheriff's department is together. It's about $1,050,000 per percentage increase. Total county is 1.7 million per percentage of increase, just to put it in perspective. So obviously, we are weighted heavily toward public safety. So that's those are the numbers. I just want to go back real quick to what Mr. McGahee said. There was quite an investment over the last 20 years for roads. We actually had a program, this is probably predates a lot of you even paying attention to what we're doing, but we had what they call prescription for progress. And we were spending somewhere around $20 million per year. We'd bond it. And we're still paying off a number of those bonds. But that's how we kept it going. I wouldn't want to venture a guess, but it's in the between probably 150 to 200 million was spent during that time. So it was significant for those that, I've been around longer than any council member, but it was significant at the time. Now, keep in mind, the roads, our roads, county roads, which is kind of hard for people to grasp, the county roads actually are in pretty good shape. The paving is. The width of them, not so much. We have a lot of country lanes that are narrow. Intersections, we have some issues there. Ours has turned from a maintenance problem to a capacity problem. How do we move more cars through there quicker? Bottom line, how do we do that safely? And that's where, we're looking at needing to widen roads, fix intersections. There's some good discussion about coordination through artificial intelligence of traffic signals, which the county actually, we operate zero. But at the end of the day, our residents travel through all these, and we've got to do what we can to help that. So just to be clear, because I'm sure somebody would have brought that up afterward, that I can get you the exact number. But it was for paving is what it was for.
Right. If you take 150 million over 10 years, that's 15 million.
Right.
Or even over 20 years, 7 million a year. So
Yeah.
I'm talking a significant, I get what you're saying, I agree with you. We have had investment, but I want a significant thing. And you're right, it's not just paving. I know we had spoken some budget sessions about, I'm really pushing hard with the state right now, and I'll come to you probably for the fall budget with that, is we're pushing to take control of the traffic lights so we can actually implement a 2025 AI solution for the lights to flow traffic and not on timers. So I'm throwing that out there. There's some initiatives I spoke to Joe and Benton about. These are things I want to push because they can really make game changers. And so it's not just paving. I'm not trying to fill potholes. There's some advanced technology we're trying to get on board at the county here and be really first in the country to use that and help it, because you're right. Some of the way we've allowed our building codes in the past 20 years, the houses are built on the roads, so we can't widen them. We've got to come up with a different solution for that. So there's more than just the 40 million that I'm asking for isn't just for roads, like paving, blacktop. It's for other things that would significantly impact our community.
Well, and if you get control of the traffic signals like you're thinking about, just think of what it'll do for public safety responses, where they can be, they can change.
So
as it
EMS
comes
will have
through.
control of the fire lights when the lights, they'll get all greens
Yep.
to the site. Same thing for the sheriff, same thing for fire department. So there's some great technology we're going to invest in here in Greenville County soon.
Councilor Bradley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would second Mr. McCahey on the 40 million next year. I think it's a great start. But unlike Mr. I don't worry about what we done yesterday, because I can't change what y'all done yesterday. I can't change what we done 20 years ago. So I'm going to focus on looking ahead and making sure we got that minimal $40 million. And it doesn't necessarily have to be asphalt. It could be whatever we determine as a council or the next council if I'm not involved. So the money's there so we can fix the projects. And I think this is a good start. And I appreciate you going to the school board. And because I know we all got many phone calls, and my wife retired from the school district. My daughter teaches at the school district. You wouldn't have thought that a 0.5% would have people crawling over us like they did, but it did. So I appreciate the effort to get that. And I think if we can get a small tax, the millage down, 1.5, and 40 million is thereabouts on the road, and keep everybody happy. I don't know what else. I don't know what else we could do. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. And pertaining to this particular item, and then we can move to all the other things, is there anybody else that wants to chime in or anything you'd like to share?
Just one last thing real quick, 'cause there's been a lot
Councilman Gay.
thank you, Chairman. There's been a lot of public discussion, and I was asking about how much our general fund is at the end of the year, and our budget's approximately $480 million this year. Just for some perspective for everybody, where I was coming from when looking through the last 10 fiscal years of the audit for the school board, is in 2024 alone, their total revenues were $1.35981 billion. I just said that correctly. Billion. $1.351 billion. Their expenditures were $1.273 billion. All right, so billion. I'm a Marine, so I had trouble doing this math. I had to have a calculator, but luckily in the audit's already done for me. They had an excess of $78.0919 million, which went to their general fund. So, and their general fund increased to $254.8 million last year. So just to give you some head in perspective to the county, ours is 80, going to drop a little bit. Their budget's double ours, yet their general fund is 3 times ours. And it makes sense, right? But they don't keep 30%. Their policy is 8.5%. I read it in their audit. So their general fund is 8% of their total budget. That's what they're required to keep. So when I went and did the math again on a calculator, the $10 million was not going to adjust their 8.4% hardly at all. So they wouldn't have lost their credit rating. They wouldn't have had all these other issues that everybody here, that was this big kerfuffle about. It just wasn't. The biggest thing that I think was the second, third order effect that I missed, and some other people, and just we didn't miss it. We just kind of didn't think it would be to that extent, was the fire districts. So we'd actually come up with a contingency plan. But now I'm amicable to Mr. Fant's plan, 100% with that commitment to have the commitment next year. And I just wanted to put that out there that, I wasn't just speaking all the cuff. My kids go to public schools. There's been a big misnomer this week that my kids go to Southside Christian or somewhere. No, they don't. My kids go to public schools and they go to charter schools, and they complain all the time that they don't want to go because it's tough. And I'd say, well, it's tough love. But to the point is, my decision making was based in numbers, and it's audits, and you can find them online for both the county and the school district. So I'm open to your plan. I think that's great. We'll phase it in. We're still going to get what we have to get. I just need that commitment from all of us that we're going to move forward and really make a difference for the county. Thank you.
Councilman McGahee, I'd also say that, in talking with the board chair and Mr. Royster today, I didn't go into the weeds on it because it wasn't important, but they were saying that some of the numbers that were floating around were not accurate numbers. And if that's the case, I think that they would be more than willing to hopefully sit down with council, whether it be through committee or through private conversation with one or two of us, and go through any of those concerns and questions about, whether it's the audit or things like that. They seem like they'd be willing to explain those, and I think that would be another good way to show that we're all trying to collaborate on this together to make sure that all the entities can operate properly.
So just to make sure, they're saying that these numbers in their audits are not correct?
No, that's why some of the numbers I think that have been floating around on social media.
Oh, okay.
Some that could have came from myself even in posting, but they're saying they're not accurate. So I'd like to give them a chance to explain which ones aren't and what the accurate numbers are. I think that'd be good for us to hear. Councilor Mitchell.
Mr. Chair, first I'd like to thank Councilor Farmer for bringing up his point. And helping us to realize that one decision alone can impact other decisions, especially when it comes to bonding and things like that, how people look at us. And Mr. Administrator, I want to thank you for making it clear that we have been doing paving and road work over the last 20 years, because when we make statements, a lot of people hear our statements and they take them to heart. So if we make a statement that we haven't been doing anything and it's not a clear statement, then people can come back and use that against us. So thank you for that. I'm just trying to still figure out how we got here where we're trying to disrupt the year and disrupt a proposed budget, things that we've been doing, things that we need to do. And we're going to take a bundle of money and put it towards roads when we know we don't have it. So we're dealing with soft money when we're talking about FELO, future money, because we don't really know what's going to happen. So, I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it. Now, you can agree or disagree. That's your choice. But I'm just saying that because we don't know how many we're going to pass, we don't know what we're going to get in the future. So, Mr. McGahee, when you say you get a commitment from us for down the road, I don't know how far down the road you're talking about. You're talking about 1 year, 2 year, 10 years at 40 million? Either way, it's a lot. So one of the things that we might consider is going back to the public and seeing if the public is willing to reconsider now passing some kind of a capital bond so that we can get money dedicated to nothing but roads. And the reason I say that is because I talk to a lot of constituents, and when I explain to them how the capital projects money was going to work and how that penny tax was going to work, they tell me they didn't understand it that way because they had so much chatter in their ears about how bad it was and how it was going to hurt them. They didn't know that tourists who came to Greenville would be paying that penny tax. They didn't know that when you go to the restaurants downtown or out in Simpsonville or wherever, then those people would be paying the penny tax. They didn't understand that. They thought that something was going to come to their house saying that they were going to have an additional tax bill that they were going to have to pay. So I'm going to ask that maybe we reconsider this whole thing, because once we start down a rabbit hole, as you so notoriously said, that rabbit hole doesn't have many exits, and you can't get off. So maybe we should pass a budget that has the road improvements in it that are absolutely necessary, and work on trying to pass another tax. No, we can't get it on the ballot this year, but we could get it on next year, and we can put some things in place, but also have a contingency plan like the FELOs or something else that we can talk to all of these other entities about and say, hey, this is how we think it's going to impact you. How do you think it's going to impact you? And what can you live with? What can we all live with? Because I know you wouldn't want anybody coming to you saying, I'm going to take money out of your pocket now and in the future just because I can. So I'm saying this because I think we need to make some statements to the people that we really do need this capital projects money, which will guarantee us money for 8 years, twice as much as we're talking about every year. And we can actually get some stuff done rather than I'm going to pick Jane's and Bob's is going to suffer some more, and Bob's is not even on the list, and Sally is just out of the picture. So that's my comment. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. The only thing I'll say is I don't disagree with you, but before I think we can revisit that based on what I feel like the public sees. Is I think these are steps, even this discussion that we're having now, where it started at 14 million, that we potentially were going to be taking from public schools, taking it to 5, working on, now it's turned into future growth. I think citizens are just expecting us to exhaust every option before property taxes first. And once we do that, we earn their trust. So when we do have a referendum vote on a sales tax, they're doing it knowing that we exhausted everything else first. So I think this is a kind of a step towards showing the citizens that we're trying to do everything that we can,
What we have.
squeeze every bit of lemon juice we can out of the lemon. And then once they've seen that, then I think they'll be more open. And obviously it wasn't far from passing anyway the last time. So it's not that I just think that there's a lot of things we can do, small things, and some of it's just having discussions like this in a workshop, because we didn't really experience a lot of this for 2 years. And I think citizens missed it, and now they're getting to hear it for the first time. And I think it's healthy. It draws out conversation, questions people probably wanted answered from the school board as well as the county. And I think that if we continue to go this route of just being open and having discussions whenever we've exhausted all those options, that's going to be an easy choice for citizens to get behind too.
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, and we're constantly evolving. And so I'm saying we got to look at many things at the same time, just like you are.
Absolutely.
But I'm also saying, let's not bury the possibility of a capital tax for down the road as we're looking at all these things.
Well, and I'll be the first one to admit, as a conservative, I even said when I fought against the last penny sales tax, I wasn't just fighting against it to get it defeated. I said if it gets defeated, I'll try my best or in my capacity to provide a better option, to replace it instead of just saying no. So I agree with you completely.
Oh.
Councilor Russo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to follow up on my last question about the public safety, do a separate raise for that. Is that something I need to present an amendment for, or we can work on it prior to, or I know we have first reading tomorrow night on 26.
Right.
Is that
It would be at second reading.
Second.
Amendments.
Okay.
And we can work through everything and
Yeah.
figure out what you're hoping for.
Okay.
Go
Thank
from
you.
there.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Long?
Along those same lines too, we need to look at where we're going to put the audit in. So we
The
can talk.
performance review?
Yes.
Yes.
And I
Yes,
believe
we'll
you
talk about
stated
that.
it's already been set to put into this.
Yeah, we got
upcoming, right?
everything drawn up for that
Okay, great.
also.
All
That
right.
would come out general fund. We'll put in non-departmental,
Okay. All right.
deal with it there.
Is that something that we could do once we get to first reading tomorrow, is to kind of give an update on where things started to where they've come so far?
Yeah, the challenge we have to do public hearings. And so we have to have a starting point with numbers, which came out of the proposed budget. And it's all a timing issue, quite frankly, nothing magic about it or trying to make it harder to do it or not do it. It's just, we have to advertise the proposed, or the number to start with, which matches the ordinance. And if you recall, that's where some people raised issue in the past, so we're making sure everything is straight down the line. But then it's open, the proposed budget is open for council to amend, change, whatever you want to do with it. So second reading is the appropriate time to do that. Now, we'll have it all mapped out, so there's no surprises. When you do this, it affects this, this, and this.
I did have a question. Getting back to when we started today, the proposal was coming out of Philo money that it was going to take an $8 million bite out of the schools. And then after, I don't know, a week later or so, that's when the numbers were run or something like that. Was the explanation there that it was computing new software, or you had to hand count? Is that a problem in just counting? Are we having a hard time tracking Philo money?
Absolutely not.
Can I answer that?
I'd like the administrator to answer that, please.
Okay, I can answer it. The $8 million actually came from the school district when they heard what we had proposed. proposed.
Okay.
That was never came from us. We were looking at 18 million increase on the county side. And that was, I didn't have a breakdown by taxing entity at that point, but I had gross numbers. I can tell you exactly what they are, how much we collected, where, each category and all that.
Okay.
Then, when we got the breakdown and saw the different numbers, for instance, Donaldson Fire Department, it was $500,000. Down South Greenville, right at $500,000. Those numbers are what became very startling because, $500,000 on a $3.1 million budget is huge.
Yeah. I mean,
That's huge.
No doubt it's all
So-
startling. I was just a little bit concerned about how good we are at easily tracking the numbers from the FELOs.
We're
And
probably,
that's it.
You probably can't get any better, quite frankly.
Okay, and that was that
Now,
question.
when I'm telling you though, I don't have it in spreadsheets and things like that. We have it on the system, which we can extract. Like I said, I've got the report. I can show you. You name a taxing entity, I can give you a sheet of paper, and it'll tell you where every penny came from us to them. You can't get much better than that.
Okay, that's-
So the $8 million was an estimate that the school district put out that they thought their impact was going to be to them. And I talked with the superintendent at that point and said, hey, I think it's going to be significantly more. And it actually was 13.8 million.
Okay.
So that's where that misinformation came from.
I got you. Thank you. Then you had talked about a $7 million from growth in FELOs, an additional $7 million this coming year.
Okay.
Am I getting that
That's correct. In the
Okay.
current fiscal year,
above what we're already getting from FELOs this year?
over last year,
Correct, yes.
over 2024 through April 30th of this year, we've collected 7 million more.
Okay, and then that gets split up between all these? Okay.
It's distributed same way, same formula.
Okay. That's all I had on this issue. If you want to move on to something else, thank you.
You got 3 minutes.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor McGahee?
Yeah, as you know, Mr. Chairman, I know you were working on it personally, the impact fees. How do you think that'll impact our revenue moving forward?
That's actually a question that I'm interested to find out, but based on what I've read, that's where we'll start getting those ideas as the study gets conducted, because the study's put together by the Planning Commission, so they'll have the scope and size and scale, and we'll start being able to make those projections unless our Mr. Administrator can elaborate on that. It's really hard to know until they conduct the study, and it is to note too, because it is a difficult process. Everything I'm reading, it's almost more volatile when it comes to that than FELOs, because it's specific to where the development's happening in real time. So it's hard to put a real number on it. And I think they somewhat did that on purpose in Columbia, but that's for another discussion altogether.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right.
I did have we moving on?
No, I think we're actually almost about to wrap up because we're about out of time. So go ahead if you got another question.
Well, it's more on the line items in the general budget, so it probably is leads into a whole nother thing about the idea, are we squeezing everything out of this budget before we even talk about these other things? I'm not sure of that. I'd like to have another workshop about, is our budget, not considering everybody else out there who's linked to our budget, but is our budget as lean as it can be? So I would like to have another workshop just on that.
Sure. I mean, I only speak for myself, but I think that these workshops so far have been great for the public to listen to us to debate. It's given some of us better understanding, at least for me too, of the process. So I think even after second reading, workshops could be beneficial. So I would have no problem with that at all.
Not sure if we can amend, though, after the second. We can on budget, or?
As long as we make a motion to do it.
Yeah, and of course, we can have another workshop before second. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We can have more. We'll just have the most workshops in Greenville County history on the budget. Anything else before we I have one final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I appreciate everybody for coming and listening in, and thank you very much. I'll entertain one final motion.
Motion adjourned.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Good.